Welcome to Grounding Ascension, where we explore topics around activating and integrating our I am presence, coming back to our true selves. I am your host, Celeste Glus. Aloha, my friends. Welcome back. I feel like it's been way too long, and this episode is coming to you with a very much needed message. And I've been waiting to get this out and asking myself, what is the best way that I could be of service right now? And the only thing that continues to come up is the current transformation of the entire humanity that we are all living. So that's what this episode is going to be about. Navigating the current times, understanding the massive healing of relationship that is happening, understanding why bringing awareness to the sexual paradigm and healing our sexual force is so important at this time. And I really want to emphasize the current opportunity that this time is bringing. So let's just go ahead and go straight into it, shall we? We have to first understand what is happening on the energetic level. Because if we simply look out into the world and onto the news, it's really easy to get bogged down and really believe that there's just no hope. And that's what I'm hearing from a lot of people. So this conversation is going to hopefully bring some grounding and some new perspective as to what's actually happening, right? So energetically, and I always share my perspective through my lens, and that means what I receive through meditation, through vision, and when I connect to the collective energetic grid and human collective, right? So this is my perspective. The light and the energy flow that is coming into the earth right now is massively transformative. Now, you might have heard this before. It might sound a little new agey, but the truth of the matter is that we are energy beings, and this is an energetic reality. So we are absolutely affected by the light that comes in, whether you can see it or feel it or not, okay? And because we are moving through a very transformational time in human history, we are being supported on all levels, guys. And this is really important for you to understand, that nothing is happening to you or to us or to the world. We are not dying. We are being rebirthed and transformed. And anybody that's gone through a rebirthing or a birthing or a transformational process knows that you need to break down what no longer serves before you can actually build something. And all of this new light that is coming in, and when I say light, specifically I'm talking about the energy that comes from the sun and from other sources of information. Okay, light can be broken down into different avenues, but for the sake of practicality and just grounding this entire process, it really doesn't matter. The point is, we are in a different place in space, and we are receiving support to be able to break down the old that does no longer work and actually create the new. And so this is going to happen no matter what. Right? So for those of you who are grabbing onto the old and trying to maintain the old structures and trying to continue your life, business, relationships in the old ways, it's just no longer going to work. It's just that simple, whether you like it or not. So whether it has to break down today, tomorrow, in 10 years, at some point, it's going to have to break, right? And that's hard for a human being, for a human mind, for a human heart to accept because of the programming that we have inherited, because of the behaviors that we have pretty much practiced since the day that we were born, right? It's hard for us to implement change, most especially change that we don't understand why we need to implement it, right? If we don't understand the subconscious programming, if we don't understand the unhealthy relationships, if we don't understand the unhealthy belief systems and behaviors we are actually implementing and deciding and choosing to enforce every single day with our thoughts, with our belief systems, with our actions, then why, if we don't understand why it's bad for us, why would we want to change it in the first place? And this is where the light comes in. The light does the work for you. We just don't mentally understand that. So this is going to lead me straight into why there is so much transformation and breaking down of relationships, of our life paradigms, and of the sexual force and the sexual energy in regards to our ability to create. I want you to think of your life like a Play-Doh scenario. And I talk about this in the Divine I Am course, which is all about awakening and activating and transforming through these times. So if you think about your life as Play-Doh, your entire reality, the matrix of your reality, like a Play-Doh structure, and your Play-Doh is actually coming to an expiration date. It's becoming really stale. You know how the Play-Doh, if those of you who are old enough actually played with it, at some point it gets stale and it just starts to break because it's old. It no longer can hold itself up. This is what's happening to our reality. The old is becoming so rigid and so stale that it literally is starting just to crack. And some of us are trying to hold on to the crumbling of whatever's left over of that Play-Doh reality. And some of us are actually looking over to the right or looking to the other way and saying, oh my God, there's this brand new Play-Doh that's been created and it's just waiting for us to mold it and to work with it and to have the patience to birth this new reality, right? Just like birthing a child, birthing a new project, birthing a new relationship. It requires patience and it requires belief and it requires love and all of the things that come with building the new. So we are quite literally the pioneers right now. And we get to choose that. We get to choose whether we want to be a pioneer of the new, or do we want to just latch on to the old, which might stay around for another 5 years, 10 years if you're lucky. But at some point, it's going to break down, guys. And I wouldn't sit around and wait because, what's that good for? So I actually want you to ask yourself right now, maybe press pause after these questions, but ask yourself, what is your current approach? And be honest with yourself. Are you holding on to the crumbling Play-Doh of your reality? Or are you looking to another path and allowing yourself to risk and to believe and to have the courage and the patience and the love that it takes to create something new? Is your approach actually serving you long term? So maybe you are holding on to the crumbling of the Play-Doh, and that works for you for the next 2 years, for the next 5 years, maybe for the next 10 years, although I highly doubt it. But what's going to happen in 10 years? So is this actually serving you long term? And if not, what are you willing to do to conform to the new? All right, so let's go straight into what is happening with relationships. So many of you all over the world are experiencing a massive transformation in your relationships. We have to understand that for the human mind and heart and just the matrix in which we live in, relationships are the founding force of what it means to be a human. We need people in our lives. And most importantly, we need people that we love, that we trust, and that also give us that in return. And in the old paradigm, and I'm going to say old and new in regards to how we used to live, what we have inherited, and perhaps what we are still living. But when I refer to the new is the possibility of what is happening right now. So in the old paradigm, we have held on to relationships and belief systems that subconsciously or maybe even consciously were hurting us, but because we believed that there was no other choice, we held on to them. And this is why our generations and our families are so hurt. This is all dissolving, guys. And nothing that breaks down and dissolves is easy, right? But we need to start to see what are the structures and what are the relationships that are actually breaking down, and why are they breaking down? And just because they're breaking down, by the way, doesn't mean you're losing them. They're being rebirthed. So in the rebirthing of this relationship, and when I say relationship, let's right now just keep it to humans, right? Because we can also talk about relationships to what we own, relationship to money, relationship to sex, relationship to so many things, right? But right now we're going to just talking about human to human relationships. So if there's something in front of you that's breaking down, meaning how you were used to that relationship with another person is no longer the case, we have to first step back and ask ourselves what's actually happening. And be honest about the lens from which we look at this relationship. How do we see this relationship? What has been our role in this relationship? And it is never one-sided, because the biggest thing that I see in counseling and mentorship is when people begin to explain their relationship with he, she did this, has always done, has always been. It's so easy to point the finger. And if we continue to do that, we'll never see the new. We'll never be able to have clarity through what lens we're actually seeing life through. So we need to point that finger back at us and say, what has been my role in this relationship? What can I do to better understand the person in front of me? And just because we understand the person in front of us doesn't mean we agree with their actions. It doesn't mean that we support their behaviors. It simply means that we get to soften into our energetic bodies, we get to soften into our emotional bodies, and we get to, for once, understand their perspective. So that's first and foremost. Can I step into this person's shoes and start to see life through their lens? And a really easy way to do that is figure out, and if this person is close to you, it will be very easy to do the following. Figure out how they grew up. Have an idea of where they come from. What have they lived? What struggles have they experienced in their lives? I promise you, if you do that within a few minutes, you will immediately understand what is happening in your relationship and how you can start to navigate it in a more beneficial or healthy way. And again, this doesn't mean that you are susceptible or you have to stay in a relationship that doesn't honor you or doesn't serve you. It simply puts you in a place where you can now start to understand the relationship between the both of you. And this has to do with choosing the path of love, which I have a whole podcast series, which I can't wait to share with you guys. But choosing the path of love is not airy-fairy and is not an easy path to choose. So I want to be clear about that, most specifically at this time. Because when our structures start to break down, when things start to get challenging, this is when the path of love, this is when the frequency of the rose, this is when the work of the divine feminine and the divine masculine come into play. And it's not easy. If someone is telling you it's easy, it's love, and it's airy-fairy, they're probably lying and blinded by the process. The path of love requires tremendous amount of courage and strength, and it will humble you down to your knees. So I want you to start taking that perspective if you are honestly and courageously having a relationship or several relationships around you that are experiencing massive transformation. And this is an opportunity to get very clear and clean about how you approach and choose the relationships in your life. Because, guys, ladies and gentlemen, the veils are thinning, right? Right now it's October of 2020. So October is a very mystical month where the veils really thin. But this is just prepping us for the future, for the now, for the next decade of our life on this planet. The veils are thinning every day, and reality is hitting us in our face. And if we can approach relationships with true heart to heart, and that's going to mean be honest. That's going to mean that you need to improve your communication skills. You need to improve how you approach the person in front of you and be very honest about your needs, wants, and desires. And is this person in front of you, whether a lover, a friend, a child, a mother, a neighbor, whatever it is, if there's any kind of interaction energetically, whether it be through speech, through love, through sexual interaction, through creation, through partnership, through work, we need to start getting very clear and clean about who's in our life and how we are exchanging energy. Because that's the other part, guys. What we haven't realized, or what we have actually forgotten, is that any time we exchange energy with anybody, whether it be through technology, through speech, through words, through acts and behaviors of love, of hate, of thoughts, whenever you exchange energy, and energy is everything, you are already impacting the other, whether you see it or not. And we need to start taking responsibility of that. And as far as we have had written human history, humans have been exchanging energy in an unconscious way. An unconscious energy exchange leads to hurt, distortion, and simple upheaval, and just a lot of hurt. And so we have to undo all of that, and requires a tremendous amount of courage and tremendous amount of willingness to be honest and raw and vulnerable. So understand that whatever experiences and transformations you are living with the relationships around you, trust them. Be humble enough to accept and embrace the changes, and be willing enough to learn from whatever is happening. And then decide from there, how do you actually want to move forward, if you want to move forward with this relationship. Again, is it serving you? Is it hurting you? How can you each benefit each other from a place of deeper love? First and foremost, you need to create a foundation with every single person that you communicate and interact with. What are you spending your energy exchange on? All right. I'm going to close that section off, and I'm going to go into understanding how the sexual paradigm is being healed right now through so many different ways. And I've already had 2 previous podcast episodes about the sexual energy and sexual force, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. But I just want to make it clear that we have to understand that creating healthy boundaries is needed now more than ever. And I see it obviously with the amount of work that I do with women more specifically. Women I refer to as any human body that carries a womb. The amount of womb clearing and healing that needs to happen at this time is incredible and tremendous. And the more women that awaken to this and understand the importance and the role of healing their womb, ladies and gentlemen, because if you're a man with a woman in your life, whether it be a sister, a lover, a child, a daughter, a friend, we have to get this message out. So just understanding that our sexual force is a huge part of our vital force. In my eyes, the sexual force is completely related to our Ka body. And our Ka body is, well, it's very deep, and it's not a conversation that I'm going to go into right now. I speak about it a lot in the Woman Wisdom Mentorship, but it basically energizes us to be the creators and the creatrixes of this reality. And so if you are losing sexual force, if you are draining your sexual force, if you are misusing your sexual force, and misusing your sexual force could be just leaking, using your sexual force in ways that will perturb or misguide, manipulate others and their actions and attention and decisions towards you, towards your wants and needs and desires, right? Because sexual force is one of the most powerful forces on this planet. And really, the true sexual force has been stripped away from us. But at this time, through this transformation, we are being taught how to more accurately and in a more healthy way use our sexual force in regards to creation. And so when we misunderstand and misuse our sexual force, we are leaking our ability to create, our ability to connect to the universal force, our ability to create to our body's wisdom. And so this pushes us down into fear. This pushes us down into a lower frequency. This pushes us down into not being able to see clearly what is in front of us. Because again, our sexual force is not just the physicality. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, I want you to go back into the last 2 episodes and really shower yourself with everything that I've talked about in regards to this true sexual force. So our ability to create right now is very important and is very linked to our sexual force. So if you're experiencing a massive transformation or healing with your sexual partner, or how you use your sexual energy, or you are perhaps starting to realize that how you have used your sexual force and sexual energy in the past has not been conducive to your highest good or to creating this new human paradigm that we're all stepping into, it's time to simply bring awareness to it and start making new decisions around it. We are truly the creators of this new paradigm, and we have to take responsibility for that. And if we are going to separate our ability to create the new with true creation, and I say true creation because I wrote about that in my book, but it's really deep. You know, these terms, it's so hard to bring them into a podcast where there's very little background to this kind of work. But true creation means that we are creating a paradigm, we're creating a matrix that's going to last through time, based on true love, based on true courage, based on this new Play-Doh of a matrix that we can create right now. And crazy enough, it is related to our sexual force. And we've just been misguided and lied to and believed that how we use our sexual energy has nothing to do with the way we live our lives. And it has everything to do with the way that we live our lives. Absolutely everything. So I just want you to get very raw and real and vulnerable about this topic. If it's a topic that makes you uncomfortable, then it's okay. This is a topic that made me super uncomfortable until it became my line of work. And let me tell you, I did not want it to become my line of work. It just happened. I did not choose it. I didn't want to choose it. I was so uncomfortable around it. And that was just an opportunity for me to break down all these walls and belief systems and barriers that I created and inherited from the old Play-Doh matrix, from the old belief systems. And so I invite you to do the same and get curious and ask yourself, how is your sexual force being used on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis with your thoughts, with your energy, with your awareness, with your speech, with how you choose to use your energy every moment of the day, every breath of your day? And then is it actually serving this new human paradigm that we're stepping into? It's really, really important, guys, to be raw and vulnerable at this time, because the light that's coming in is actually supporting us tremendously. So if you are just willing to sit in your own heart of hearts and just ask to be shown, I promise you guidance will start to come into your life. I promise you, you will be guided by forces that you didn't even know were possible. You just have to start. A really easy way to do this is take an inventory of where you come from, of your family dynamics. Get real and raw and ask questions to your parents and to the generations before you. What has been under the covers? What has not been spoken about? And you will see incredible patterns that are now ready to be unleashed and broken down. And as challenging and uncomfortable as it may be, it is also very exciting, and this is what we signed up for before we came in, believe it or not. I don't care how old you are. If you're listening to this, you signed up for this work before you came into this life. So know it, own it, and do it. And so this brings me into the last section of our talk today, the current opportunity that exists at this time. So you understand how your relationships are affecting you. You understand how the sexual force is asking to be looked at and related to your ability to create the new. It's really important to note how there is a divide happening right now in the world, and I see it so clearly. And I already spoke about it. Those that are holding on to the crumbling of the Play-Doh and those that are willing to play with the new. The old way of doing relationships, of interacting with people, of creating businesses and networks and structures and economic principles and everything that creates our reality is changing, it's transforming. And it's such an opportunity, right? It's such a typical thing to say that in times of chaos, that's when the true transformation happens. But it really is, guys. And you need to take this under your own wings and really take responsibility. And if you need help, find the people in the community that will support you through this time. So get really real about what are you creating right now and how is it serving you and your family and your community? How can you actually collaborate and support and be a part of something that is going to be a part of the new? And then if you have no idea, well, then maybe you have skills or traits or a passion, or maybe you have assets that can actually help another person where you can partner up with, or you can support in the creation. Because that's another thing. Where we are headed to right now is it's no longer about me. It's no longer about you. It's about us. It's about the relationship between humans. So we're no longer going at it alone. We need to be open about how we can help each other, how we can be creating the new together. And this requires an exchange of energy, right? And here we go back to the relationships. It's all a circle. We have to first clean up the relationships in our lives to then be able to bring in and create new relationships that are going to create the new. It's freaking mind-blowing, guys, how all of this is so interrelated. It's beautiful and it's challenging and it's hard, and it requires us to be humbled down and just really, really get real about the life that we're living. Finding ways to not only navigate these times, but come out on the other side, giving thanks and having gratitude for 2020 and even 2021, because we're not going to finish this after the presidential election, right? The story doesn't end here. The story doesn't end on January 1st, 2021. The story only begins. So what are you going to be doing these next 60 days? What are you going to be doing now? And it's not to put pressure on you, but it's just to be real about this is happening for a reason. It's not going to be easy. And a lot of us have a lot of repressed anger, emotion, and situations that we need to deal with in our lives right now. And the light that is coming in is shining light on this. It's giving us support, and the support doesn't always look pretty. The support sometimes looks like shit is hitting the wall. But we need to be able to look at that shit and say, okay, there is shit on the wall. How am I going to clean this up? I can't just look away. I can't just walk away. And I can't also just pretend that it's all gravy and good. And the next president is going to change my life. And the next thing is going to change. And the next and the next and the next. And we just sit down and watch. We just can't do that anymore. And that leaves us in a place of victimhood and a place of powerlessness. And that's just no longer the case anymore to where we're going. We're going to a place, and we are in a place of empowering ourselves. And that's where this conversation ends. And I ask you to take on this role of new beginnings. Get really clear about how you're navigating these times. There is a beautiful rainbow bridge that is opening up this weekend with the full moon into 11/11. I'm going to be running a fasting program on 11/11. So just keep your eyes on that. Fasting is a great way to clear ourselves of the external stimulus and stimuli and really get clear about what's happening in our energy field. So if that's something that you're interested in, just keep your eyes out, message me, reach out to me. I'd love to do this together. And just be aware that every time we show up for ourselves, we show up for the whole. And sometimes we do need to show up tremendously for ourselves. That's also another reason why I took a break from this podcast, because I have been birthing a project and a creation that means the world to me. And I don't even want to talk about it because I'm going to start crying right now, but that's how much it moves my soul. And we're all doing this, whether we see it or not. We're birthing new projects that are going to change and that are changing reality right now. So it's really exciting times. It's very transformative times, and it's also very challenging times. And if there's one thing I want to leave you with today is, can you find the light in the darkness? Can you find the light that's peering through the cracking of the Play-Doh of the old matrix? If you're needing support in this, or you want to further this conversation, I would love, love, love to hear from you. Feel free to email me or message me or just reach out to me. I love these conversations, and I am creating a platform right now where we can continue them. But just definitely know that this podcast will continue to bring so many more amazing series your way. So until next time, my friends, send you so much love, support, and guidance, and strength. So much strength and so much courage at this time. Mahalo, mahalo, mahalo. Thank you. Gracias. Mwah.